Spain is planning to issue 900,000 residence permits by 2027, almost a full million. And one of those Spanish residency cards could be yours. Right now, Spain is the most migration-friendly country in the European Union. You can get a residence permit here regardless of your situation. Whether you have significant savings, no money at all, plan to run a business, work, study, or simply want to obtain an EU residence card valid for 3 years. A card that won't be revoked, no matter whether you actually live in Spain or not. Which immigration programs are available, who they fit, and what alternatives exist in Europe besides Spain. That's exactly what we're going to break down today. Welcome to the Wise Move YouTube channel. My name is Eugene. I'm one of the co-founders of our project, and I'm also a holder of a Spanish residence permit. So why did I personally choose Spain for my new residency card? As I mentioned at the start of this video, Spain is the most open country for migration in 2025, and that's absolutely true. There is no other EU country you can move to as easily and simply as Spain. But beyond that obvious fact, there are 3 more factors that personally played a big role for me. First, Spain is currently the only EU country where you can obtain a residence permit after entering on a tourist Schengen visa. This dramatically simplifies the relocation process because you don't need to get a national D visa for entry into the EU. Normally, a D visa is the first step to any EU residence permit. In virtually every other EU country, it works like this. In your country of residence or citizenship, you go to the consulate, submit your case for review, and if approved, you then apply separately for a D visa to enter the EU. And only afterwards does the D visa get exchanged for a residence card. This creates a few issues. First, it's a lengthy, drawn-out process. Second, D visa refusals do happen. Your immigration case can be approved while the D visa itself gets denied. It's rare, but it happens. Spain lets you skip that entire process. All you need is a Schengen visa. And it doesn't even have to be a Spanish one. It can be a Schengen visa issued by any Schengen country. It's also worth noting, if for some reason you can't return to your home country and are already abroad, you can still get a Schengen visa from where you currently are. For example, this procedure is currently available in Yerevan. Even if you don't hold any legal status in Armenia, no property, no residence permit, no registration, nothing. You can simply arrive in Armenia and within a few days submit your Schengen application. Then you fly into Spain and start the standard procedure. Many people underestimate this possibility of applying for residency from inside Spain. But nowhere else in the EU is this available. It used to be possible in Portugal as well, but the Portuguese parliament shut that option down last year. Largely because of that, you can get Spanish residency in just 2 months. In my case, it took 7 weeks from entering the country to having the physical residence card in my hand from the immigration authorities. The second thing that mattered a lot to me is the fact that Spain doesn't revoke residence cards that aren't being actively used. I love this country, I love living here, but my wife and I occasionally think, what if we moved, say, to Amsterdam? If we made that decision and stopped living in Spain, stopped being tax residents here, didn't spend any time inside the country, we could even leave the EU entirely, and Spanish authorities wouldn't care. The residence card would remain valid. Again, that's in sharp contrast to most other EU countries. And personally, I really love the climate in Spain. We live in the north of Spain, in the Costa Brava region, about an hour's drive north of Barcelona, in a small, cozy green town surrounded by mountains. The weather is very pleasant. Summers usually aren't hot. This year was an exception, but normally Costa Brava summer temperatures rarely exceed 30 degrees Celsius, at least on the coast, and we live literally 5 minutes from the sea. Winters are also fairly warm, and in December we still go mushroom picking in the forest nearby. And if you want real winter weather and winter sports, the Pyrenees Mountains are right there. If you also want to get a European residence permit, come to a free consultation via the link below this video. We'll analyze your situation and help you pick the country and the program that fit you best. Let's break down the main ways to obtain Spanish residency. If you're planning to run a business in Spain, the Startup Visa is for you. It's a special program for entrepreneurs, though it's focused specifically on innovative projects. If you're planning a more traditional business rather than a startup, we can help you strengthen the project so that the Spanish Ministry of Economy and the National Innovation Agency approve your application. If you want residency for your own personal reasons and don't necessarily plan to live in Spain, or you do plan to, but don't yet know exactly how it will unfold, the most universal option currently available is the Digital Nomad Visa. There are a few very important details about this program you absolutely need to know before deciding, but I'll come back to that in a moment. Third option worth mentioning, the Student Visa. If you want to pursue education in Europe, this is a valid path. There are some nuances. It's not as convenient or universal as the first 2 programs, but it's a real option. Just keep in mind, this type of residency will need to be converted into another one later if you're planning to stay in Spain long term. The fourth option is the cheapest and simplest, but also the slowest. Getting residency through settlement, arraigo, takes about 2 years. It doesn't suit everyone, but it's what you might call the people's option. Almost anyone can relocate this way, regardless of life situation or bank balance. But yes, it's very slow. What's the point of waiting 2 years, plus the case review time on top of that, if you can achieve the same result in 2 or 3 months through other programs? Let's break down who Spanish residency is actually for and what requirements apply to applicants. Spain is generally accessible regardless of nationality. Coming from a sanctioned country does not, by itself, affect your immigration process. However, there is an important nuance. If you personally are under personal sanctions, or if you work for an organization that is sanctioned, that can become a real obstacle. Even then, in many cases, we can help strengthen the case so that immigration services have no questions. But here's when Spanish residency may not be the best choice. If your goal is to obtain a second EU citizenship as fast as possible. For that, a better fit would be, for example, France, or other countries where you can apply for a passport after just 5 years of residency. In Spain, the required period is 10 years. On top of that, Spain requires you to renounce your original passport. Dual citizenship is officially prohibited here. If your goal is the passport, France is likely the ideal option. Getting residency there is also relatively easy and comfortable, though the process is significantly slower than in Spain, taking about 6 months. But French residency is very easy to renew. And after a single renewal, you can already start applying for citizenship, because French residence permits are issued for 4 years right from the start, which, as far as I know, is currently the longest initial residency period anywhere in the EU. The fastest, most convenient, and most universal way to get Spanish residency right now is the Digital Nomad Visa. I personally received this type of residency last year, but as I said, there are several nuances to account for. The main requirement of the program is to demonstrate documented remote income. The threshold is around 3,000 euros to 4,000 euros per month, depending on family size. A larger family means higher required income. If you're applying alone, the figure is below 3,000 euros. If you have the finances, but for one reason or another, you can't prove you actually work for a company that fits all the criteria, we can help prepare and strengthen your financial documentation so that immigration services have no questions. There's also a widespread online opinion that if you get a digital nomad residency, you're automatically required to pay social security contributions in Spain, like a monthly subscription fee. This is partially true, but it depends entirely on how you structure your financial documents. If you declare that you already pay social security in another country, you won't have to pay it in Spain. This problem usually hits only those who didn't prepare their immigration case properly. If you want to get residency in Spain or another EU country, message us on Telegram. The link is in the description of this video. We'll analyze your specific situation and help you choose the country and program that fits you best. The consultation can be either a call or text-based chat, whichever you prefer.